Go.
My name is Nicholas Seidel. Today is April 20th, 2021, and the time is 2:24 p.m. This interview is being conducted and recorded virtually. I am interviewing John Arnold, who was born on June 27th, 1950 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. John Arnold served during the Vietnam War era between the years 1970 and 1971. John Arnold was a specialist in the Army and served as an engineer. So to start off this interview, what were you doing before you entered the military?
I was in college at the Milwaukee School of Engineering,
What were you studying at the Milwaukee School of Engineering?
mechanical engineering.
Mechanical engineering. What made you decide to go into mechanical engineering?
It's something that was always interested me, and I was very good at math and things like that. So it's something I was always interested in. And I wanted to go to MSOE because it's a highly ranked school. And because of being a highly ranked school, and it costs a lot more than going like to say MATC or something like that. So I couldn't go full time.
Okay.
Because I wasn't going full time, I got drafted. I won the first lottery.
So were you drafted or did you enlist in the military?
I was drafted.
What was your reaction to being drafted?
It wasn't shocked because I had a low number in the lottery. So I guess, but at that particular time of the era, it's something that, you a lot of mixed emotions, you just assume the worst and stuff like that. It did not turn out that way for me, but.
Can you elaborate on the process of how you were drafted?
Well, the process, when you turn 18 years old, that's still the case, but you had to register. And then in 1969, they did a lottery to make it a more fair system. And I had number 34. They take your birthday and they drew them out. Mm. And I had number 34, and March 13th, which is a Friday, by the way, Friday the 13th, I got drafted, and I went into the Army right away. The way I understand it, the first lottery, they took guys up to about number 100, 250. So they took a lot of people. They were still drafting a lot of people for the war.
Did you have any friends or family members in the military when you got drafted?
That were in the military?
Yep.
My brother Michael went in a year after I did, but he joined and he went in. He served in Vietnam, but he joined. I did not join.
So, what was the reaction of your parents when you got drafted?
Of my family?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a mixed emotions. Some people are sad and stuff like that, and like I said, I was in the middle of school. I did not get to finish it. There was no giving back. Oh, you could just finish. We'll see you later. It's not that kind of thing. If I would have joined, they make more of accommodations, but I wasn't going to. At the time, I was just going to do the 2 years.
Was your enlistment in the military an influence on your brother who joined the military?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there. I'm sorry.
Was being drafted into the military an influence on your brother who joined the military?
No, he joined after I was in. He's a year younger than I, and he joined when I was almost. I think I only had like 6-7 months to go when he joined.
How much did you being drafted impact your future plans?
Back my future plans, well, it kind of messed it up for school for a little while, but I did finish school under the GI Bill. It took me 7 years, but I did it. And because of the GI Bill, I got to go to a very nice school and finished it. But I still had to work and stuff. But yeah, it helped. It didn't hurt. Let's put it that way. I was proud to do it.
Great. So, where did you go for your training?
Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
How did you travel to Kentucky?
They flew us out of Milwaukee to the air base there. See, they flew us there. So, they picked us up in buses and stuff like
What was your initial reaction when you first got to your training?
that. Scared. Because you arrive around 1 o'clock in the morning, you're disoriented, you don't know where you are. There's rumors flying everything. Everybody knows something. If you listen to rumors, you're going to be in big trouble. I mean, everybody knows what's going to happen to you that day, and it's turned out to be not true at all. But it's kind of scary because you're, in a situation you've never been before. The first week wasn't too bad because all you're doing is getting your physicals and uniforms and getting paperwork done. And it was the next 8 weeks that were tough. That's when the drill sergeants took over.
How were the drill sergeants?
They were tough. But after a while, you got into the routine, and that's the whole idea. Is to get back and get into the routine and follow orders and stuff like that. That's their idea. That's why they call it basic training.
So, what were some of the skills that you learned at basic training?
Shooting. I really can't think of any real skills other than marching, I guess, or something like that. But basic training is to acclimate you to the military, not to really anything else.
So after you finished your basic training, what did you do next?
Well, that's a funny story. I never went to AIT, what's it called, advanced training. And I'm probably one of the few guys in the Army that never went to training. At basic training, the end of it, they called everybody in for a little meeting. And they said, okay, Charlie, you're going to Fort Polk 11B 20-year infantry. Joe, you're going to artillery school, and the guys that signed up, oh, you're going to your mechanics class. They didn't know what I was. My MOS was 52 F20. And nobody knew what it was, the training NCO. And so I had to go back the next day, and he told me, he says, well, you're an electrician, and you get 2 weeks delay en route, which means I got to go home for 2 weeks. And you're going to Fort Riley, Kansas, to the 1st Infantry Division. So I said, oh, I'm going to electrical school. He goes, no, I went under what they call CAS, Civilian Acquired Skills. As God is my witness, I have no idea why they ever picked me for it. But what the Army was doing was, in certain forts, and I think Fort Riley, Kansas, that's where I wound up going, we're trying a program where some Army guys would do the maintenance work in buildings or something like that, where before they were hiring civilians at a much higher cost. I mean, we were a much cheaper labor force than the civilians. So they had there was about 4 or 5 of us guys that we called a repair and utility crew, and they weren't ready for us. It just didn't work out. I was not an electrician. And some of the guys weren't carpenters. We still to this day don't know how I figured that out. So after about 6 months of the repair and utilities group, they decided to get rid of it, and they didn't know what, so they stuck me into what they call a line company. And I was a combat engineer, which is a 12B20, and that supports the infantry. And since I had no training, they kind of made me a driver of APCs, Armored Personnel Carrier, and so I wound up being a driver for them. But I never used the electrical or mechanical engineering again after that in the Army.
That's very interesting.
I never went to training.
So you never had any training for being an electrician?
No, none.
So
Zero.
when you got deployed, did you ever have to do any electrical work, or was that part of your duties?
Back then, yeah. I mean, we worked for 6 months as a crew trying to fix stuff. I would work with the civilians once in a while and stuff like that. It was a great job. I didn't have to pull any duty. I didn't have to do any KP or guard duty or anything. I was exempt from all that stuff. Until, like I said, where they made the mistake, this is just opinion, is I was assigned to the 1st Infantry Division. I should have been assigned what they call cadre. Those are the people that never leave the post. And it was an experiment by the Army, but it was handled poorly. They didn't get the right people. That included me.
So when were you first deployed?
Deployed,
Yeah, when were you first deployed?
employed, I mean, after the Army?
Deployed.
Oh, deployed. Well, I did 2 Reforgers to Germany. And that's what got me back into the line company. Every year, about October, they would fly to the division. What the Reforger means, return of forces to Germany. And because it cost the Army so much money to keep all these soldiers, we almost had as many soldiers in Germany as we did in Vietnam. And they started pulling them out, but they promised NATO that if we need to come back, we can get you there in 72 hours. That's a joke. Because it could never happen. But that's beside the point. So all 15,000 of us hopped on Air Force jets and flew to Germany. And then we took out because remember I became a driver. So we took out our tracks and trucks and Jeeps and stuff out of storage. And we spent 2-3 weeks just getting them to run. So it was interesting because I got to see Germany and stuff. But the longest I was ever there was 40 days. And then next year we went back to Fort Riley and they tried the repair thing again for a short period of time. Didn't work out again. So the second year, then I went back to Germany again and just basically repeated. And same thing, we went over there, get the stuff out of storage, get it ready, and played little warm games with the Germans and the Canadians and British.
So what was the purpose of Exercise Reforger?
It was the return of forces to Germany. It was part of our NATO commitment to Europe. When the United States started pulling hundreds of thousands of troops out of Germany, our friends were worried about the Russians. And that was a big thing back then, probably way before you were born. The Russians were a big threat. They could come over that border anytime. And so we were like we'll make up for it. Okay, we'll send the 1st Division over there, in short order over there. As I understand years ago, I was in number 2 and 3. As I understand it, when they got to about 7, 8, 9, they got it down to science pretty good, but it was a little bit of a joke of sending us all over there because it took us, we practiced for 6 months to go for a 3-day deployment. But we did all 15,000 of us get there in 3 days.
All right. So what countries were all participating in Exercise Reforger?
Germany, West Germany at the time. Great Britain, France, Canadians troops were there. I heard there were other countries involved, but those are the ones I saw because we had contact with those guys.
So how often did you have to interact with people from other countries?
How long do I interact with them?
Yeah.
Well, when you meet them socially after, when you get a break or something like that, or on the field, you talk to them. Yeah, quite a bit. Matter of fact, because I was in an engineer unit, we traveled actually with a British infantry unit for a while.
So what was the most interesting parts of your deployment? What parts of your deployments did you enjoy the most?
Seeing the country. We went everywhere. We went up and down from the French border to the Czech border. So got to see we had no idea sometimes where we were, but it was pretty country. And we had time off too. We had time off. We got to see other cities and stuff like that. Some guys went to Paris, some guys went to Amsterdam, some guys went to the United States Army has a vacation spot in Germany called Garmisch. You can go skiing if you want. But I stayed in Nuremberg area, which I liked.
So I heard that you had to spend 18 days in the German woods. Can you kind of explain that experience to me?
18 days of what?
18 days in the German woods.
Oh yeah. When we first got there, we didn't go to a barracks. It was war games, and yeah, the first probably 3 weeks, we were out in the field. We slept in pup tents, and we moved around. I never could understand how the war game goes because you never saw your enemy, but we won. But I never could understand it. But yeah, it was all in the field, and then we went to afterwards, when the war games were done, we went to a town called Grafenwehr. And Grafenwehr is a military base there. Now it's a NATO base. It means a bunch of countries. It's the only place in Western Europe where we can live fire, where they can shoot. So we went there to support the tanks for a little bit, and we stayed in old German army barracks, which had bullet holes in the walls and stuff. It was kind of cool. But, then we were only a couple of miles from Nuremberg, so we used to take a train down there on the weekends and stuff. Grafenwehr was an old German town, very Americanized because of big army base there.
So did you have many interactions with any West German citizens while you were, or civilians while you were being deployed?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. When you go to restaurants or places like that in town, or of course I was 19 years old. We're looking for the German girls too. We had interaction.
Were they very friendly to you, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, even the older people, what you figured were from the war era, they still kind of treated us okay. I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't have, but the French people weren't real friendly, I think, for some stupid reason, but never had any problem with the Germans at all.
So the equipment that you used while you were on duty, was the quality equipment, or did you have to improvise with it?
You mean for why it didn't work?
Can you elaborate on the quality of the equipment that you were using?
Well, the quality of the equipment we had was old. Okay, and it was what they call pre-positioned. So when we got there, we could quick grab it, get it going, and if we had to fight a war, we're ready. But the stuff was so old. I'm not into the tank model numbers and stuff. They were not the same tanks that our infantry division drove in Vietnam or back in Fort Riley. They were not the M60s or whatever they called them. I can't remember the part numbers or the truck numbers and stuff like that. So equipment was a little older. Plus, we were used to gasoline engines. This is from me as being a driver. We had gasoline engines over here. They had nothing but diesels. Oh, we didn't know a lot about diesel engines, So I think they got it better over time. But don't forget, I was on number 2 and 3, so we're still getting it down.
So how well do you think your training prepared you for your exercise Reforger experience?
Oh yeah, we got ready for it. I mean, we spent a couple of months out in the field and drive. Oh yeah, the Army got you ready. Number one, I don't know how many people you've been talking to about the Vietnam era, but in Vietnam the war was a little more lax. The dress code was different. They could grow mustaches and stuff. They were in Germany. You played Army. They were very shine boots. They wanted creases in the pants. They wanted. So it was a little different attitude because you're looking at Europe and it's the showcase of the world here. So we had to behave a little bit different. Our haircuts had to be done all the time. I mean, a little different serving in Germany that wasn't. Even in the United States and in Europe, and our Vietnam veterans that were with us were almost appalled because they never had to do half this stuff before. Now we did, but it was very strict because it was an image thing. They wanted to project that we were professionals, are good at our jobs.
All right. So in your free time, how did you travel around Germany?
Over there?
Yeah.
The trains were real popular. They used trains like we use buses. Never drove a car, other, civilian car, or cabs. I mean, they had cabs everywhere. But just, trains get you around out there is really interesting.
So besides being a driver, did you have any other responsibilities while you were being deployed?
Just to help out when we went to a place, whatever they assigned me to. I mean, I did wind up viewing a few things. We were engineers, and my particular company was Charlie company was I'm going to guess more or less a labor company. We built bridges. That's our big thing. We were supposed to bridge the Rhine River. I don't know if you have any idea how big the Rhine River is, but it's pretty big. It's bigger than the Mississippi or wider. And it's like a lake wide. But so we had to build a bridge. So we built a bridge out 500 feet. That was probably the hardest physical thing we did. You had to put what they call bulk aluminum blocks and stuff together and stuff. And that was just a show. So some general could go over and look at it and nod his head and, okay, take it down.
So those bridges didn't last? They were up?
No, these are temporary. They float.
Oh, okay.
They float.
So what contribution that you had during your deployments are you most proud of?
I did my job. I never got into trouble. I got promoted fairly quick for a guy that wasn't trained in that particular unit. So I did what I had to do. Let's put it that way. Like I said, I was drafted. I wasn't enthusiastic about doing this, but I'm proud I did it.
So was your experience in the military what you expected when you first went to training?
No. No, I had no idea what to expect. And in basic training, I was telling you about rumors before. Rumors were dark. You're going to go to Vietnam. You're never going to come home. Say goodbye to your mom. This is the end of the world now. And none of that ever happened.
All right. And then finally, so when you got to come home, how was the transition back to normal life like?
Well, yeah, that's a good one. Let's talk about it, getting out first, okay? When I came back from Germany the second time, which was in October of 1971, I went in October or March of 1970, okay? So I had roughly about 6 months to go. Well, we went back to Fort Riley and Vietnam was winding down. And as Vietnam was winding down, more and more guys were coming back to Fort Riley. When we came back from Germany, there was guys in our beds. They were putting squad rooms were all of a sudden having 8, 9 guys in them instead of 4. So all of a sudden the Army had too many guys. Mm-hmm. Well, who did they want to get rid of? The guy that I only had 5 or 6 months to go. Wasn't trained as a member, but I was a good soldier and I did my job. So in December of 1971, the first sergeant called us out and he said, okay, he ran off about 8 or 9 names. He says, these are your papers, you clear post, you're out of the Army. Well, half the post was leaving, but about 20 days later, because there was no computers back then, worth mentioning, you turn in all your gear and everything that belongs to the Army, you get rid of that. Then you had, the longest thing was getting a physical. And on December 23rd, 1971, I got out. So Christmas present. So I only served 1 year, 10 months and 21 days.
So what were your emotions?
Happy.
When you got out? Happy?
Happy, very happy.
Did you enjoy your experience in the military at all? Or?
Yeah, overall, yeah. I mean, there's times when you first went in and like I told you, you're scared, you don't know what's going on. I was drafted. But no, after time, I made a lot of friends. I still have friends from the military. And then the group of guys, I'm sitting here right now with a group of guys that I've met because I was in the military, and they're all my friends.
So when you got back to Fort Riley, did you have any interactions with the soldiers who actually had to go to Vietnam?
Oh yeah, all the time. A lot of my friends were, uh, the, the, I can tell you real quick, the 1st Infantry Division that I was in, the day I arrived at Fort Riley after basic training is when the day for the 1st Infantry Division arrived back at the United States. They pulled it out. A little different than pulling out like today. These guys, when they go on a deployment, they go as a group. Back then, you didn't go as a group. The only thing that came back was the general staff and the flag. Everybody repatched. So they told everybody that division came back. It really didn't. They just repatched. That's another story. But the Army, when we went there, Fort Riley became a catch place for guys coming back. I mean, we had guys in my platoon that were artillerymen, infantry, a lot of infantry guys. They were all of a sudden assigned to a combat engineer unit. They were all there just to fill spots in the Army. That's why I got the early out. All of a sudden, the Army was pulling out 100,000 guys out of Vietnam. Well, they got to put them somewhere. So they started letting the guys that were short timers, we called it, which is a big word back then. Short timers, they gave us a break. We got to get out early.
So
I mean, I could have stayed in. I mean, I would have had to gone into some other training. I was offered officer candidate school because of my test scores and stuff, my college background. But there was, at the time, no. But it was a good experience.
So if you knew that you would have had the experiences you had, would you have considered volunteering for the military?
I'm sorry.
If you would have known you would have participated in Exercise Reforger, would you have considered volunteering for the military?
No, I mean, I never even heard of, a Reforger till I was there for a couple of months. And they said, oh, by the way, we're going to Germany in 3 months. Oh, really? And oh, well, that's good. I thought, well, how long are you going to be there? You go, about a month. Okay. So it's kind of a neat experience. I got to go to Germany twice and got to visit France. We were in the Azores on the way to England. We were all those countries on the way there, on the way back. So we got to see a couple of things that we'd never seen before. But the biggest thing I think I ever got out of the military was probably the friendships. Like I told you, I still have friends. When I was in my 20s, it was not popular to join a veterans organization. Because it was such a, it's hard to describe to a young man like yourself the feeling of the country back then. But I was, I joined the AMVETS. It was another organization called the AMVETS, American Veterans. And my uncle was a commander at that time, and I had a good time with them. And then a friend of mine here in Pewaukee asked me to join the American Legion post here. And that was probably almost 30 years ago. And I've been a member a long time. I've been commander. I am commander currently. I was been commander 4 times. And I enjoy it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. I mean, there's times that we all go, it's in any organization. I don't care if you belong to the Kiwanis or the Boy Scouts or whatever, there's times there. But it's a great organization because we help each other. And there's guys that had it a lot tougher than me, trust me. And there's guys that maybe had it easier. I can't find one yet, but that's working for it. But veterans organizations are good. I hope they keep on going. I hope the young men that are in the military today and women getting in, that's the other thing is women are involved with the military. When I was in the Army, the only women I ever saw were nurses. We had a WAC post, they called them WACs back then. I don't know if they still do that or not. It was called the Women's Army Corps. And the women's barracks was behind barbed wire. I don't know. We used to go watch them bowl. That's how bored we were. But now the military is training them together, and in our post we've got at least a half a dozen women are fairly active, and some are very active. So it's been a good thing overall, and that's because I was in the military. You know, and I bought my first house on a veteran's loan. I finished college on a VA. I don't recall exactly what it is because I could never time-wise afford or money-wise afford to go full-time. So I went in the evenings and stuff like that for 7 years. And I did it.
Yeah. So how difficult was it for you to finish college after coming back from the military?
Well, because it took so long, you know. Plus I got married, you know, and then I had children, you know, and so when you got that, it takes a lot of time, you know, when you're married and when you have kids and stuff like that. But I always seem to, you know, find a Tuesday and Thursday. It seemed always Tuesdays and Thursdays for school and stuff like that. And it helped me financially too. I mean, I got promoted and I was a salesman for years and worked in the mechanical. I was always in the mechanical field, and I actually became president of the company for 14 years. And it was because of the education I got, maybe because I finished military, because it helped my education.
And when you came back, did you ever feel like you were treated differently because of your veteran status?
Oh yeah, I grew up. Went in a 19-year-old boy, came out a 21-year-old man. Different attitude, you know, and yeah, I had no qualms about that. Yeah, when it's amazing what you learn when you're 19. 19, you know the world. You can conquer it. The world don't stop me. It can be stopped. So what you got to do is you learn, and then you can conquer the world.
Mm-hmm. So was the overall transition from military life back to civilian life, was it difficult or was it easier than you expected?
Well, it was difficult. I mean, when I got out, I had to get a job and stuff like that, and range school and stuff. Remember, I got out on December 23rd, 1971, just before Christmas. So that was a great time. And, you know, you get back pay and stuff like that. And not a lot, but back pay. And then I was lucky that I got a job right away at the place called Stearns Electric, which was a manufacturer of brakes and clutches and stuff like that. And I got lucky and I got a job there, and I was there for a few years. And so I got lucky. A lot of guys, because there was a lot of unemployment back then because there were so many guys coming home. Remember, hundreds of thousands of us were being let out early and stuff. I mean, I think even the military cut back on recruiting, you know, because there was so many of them. So all of a sudden you get all these people in the workplace. So I was nervous about a job and stuff like that, but I was lucky I got one, you know.
So finally, what were some life lessons that you learned during the time of your service?
Life lessons? You got to learn to trust your friends. You got to learn to help. You got to learn to help with people a little bit more. I guess there was so much, I don't know how to put it, baloney floating around in the military and stuff like that. Learn to be an honest man, because if you want to live the baloney lives like a lot of those guys did, you're going to be in trouble for the rest of your life. You know, no, I just think getting along with everybody. And when you came out, like I said, I grew up.
All right. And then finally, can you describe the impact that the American Legion has had on veterans and the community?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the proud American Legion. Here right in Pewaukee, we do a lot. And I don't know if you know a lot about, do you live in Pewaukee?
I do live in Pewaukee.
Have you ever gone to our egg hunt?
No, but I've heard a lot.
We've been doing Easter egg hunt for 90 some years. And we give out scholarships every year to a couple of kids from Pewaukee High School. And little things like that. We donate money to the food pantry, and hopefully not too many people around here need it, but there are people out here that need it, you know, so things like that we do. Makes you feel good.
All right, so thank you. In closing, this has been an interview of John Arnold regarding his service during the Vietnam War era. My name is Nicholas Seidel. The time is 2:59 p.m. Thank you for agreeing to this interview, and most importantly, thank you for your service.
Thanks, Nicholas.
All right. So I think my history teacher wants to come in.